Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're going to continue on with our wide receiver ranks. On last episode, we did our top 20. Today we're going to do 21 through 40. Actually, it's going to be 21 through 41. We had a tie at number 40, so we got to go one deeper than that. We'll go through all of those just a second, but make sure you guys go check us out on Twitter at the FF Prophet or Instagram. We're Fantasy Football Prophet on there. Go check out our YouTube page, youtube.com/fantasyfootballprophet. If you want to get into our listener leagues, this is the last week really to sign up for them. So you go leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. Let us know you did. Send us the review. Tell us, where you did it, what name you used, all that good stuff. You can be in one of our listener leagues with a chance to win our championship belt that was provided by Pro-Am Belts. Make sure you go check them out at proambelts.com as well. If you want to see the belt, go to our Instagram page. We got a couple pictures of it up there. So those drafts will be happening now. The August 12th draft is all filled up. So the August 19th, it'll be Sunday, August 19th are when these next drafts are available. So make sure you guys get the reviews in if you want a chance to win the belt. But let's just jump into it again, Jeff. Number 21, go right into the show. It's going to be Allen Robinson. We have a little bit of a difference here. He's my 16th, your 23rd. I know I can see some of the hesitation too, coming off an injury. We don't really know what the offense is going to look like, but I feel pretty confident in it. And I think Chicago's going to have a little bit of a jump. And I think Allen Robinson's going to be solid. It's not like I'm too crazy off. 16th is still a mid wide receiver too, but I like the potential there. I think you're going to agree there's some potential there. It's just you're more hesitant than I am.
Yeah, 100%. The guy's a very good wide receiver. He's got all the skills and attributes you could possibly want out of a wide receiver one. I was actually kind of surprised when the Jaguars let him go. But you hit it right on the nail right on the head. He is coming off a major injury. I haven't actually seen him, full speed yet. And he is going to an offense that is going to be led by his first official full year, Trubisky, who I know a lot of people love. Shout out to Chicago, but it's enough where it puts a lot of doubt and fear in my head. Especially when you kind of look at their weapons, and you know that right away Allen Robinson is going to draw the most attention. And if I was everyone else, I would say, all right, Taylor Gabriel and the rookie, I can't even think of his name at the moment, but Anthony Miller, thank you. Anthony Miller, those guys go out and beat us. We're going to double Allen Robinson. So I think that there's a lot to kind of wait around and see how things shake out. And that's why he does drop. But, the guy is really, really good. I don't like his situation there as much as the other people.
Yeah, I get that. This 16th is the high. That's right there bordering on a little bit higher than I maybe want to go. I can see him in my next update. It wouldn't surprise me if Brandon Cooks jumped up ahead of him if we hear any good more news. That's for me. Brandon Cooks is already well ahead for you. So there's a couple guys we could switch, there. And he jumped to this spot. Probably one of the reasons too is Doug Baldwin dropped below him with the injury. So there's a couple guys he could drop a little lower, but I think you're getting him at pretty good value. The potential there. He's ranked 18th right now, consensus, getting drafted at 19th. That's pretty solid value. You're not really overpaying for him in drafts too much. So if Trubisky does step up, which, who knows? We'll see if that happens or not. But it could be pretty solid value for Allen Robinson. Number 22, it's going to be Demaryius Thomas. He's my 23rd ranked, your 21st ranked. Should just be a solid player. Has a better quarterback this year. But you would be surprised to know we're actually a little low on him. It looks like consensus-wise he's 19th, but there's a lot of people that rank him much higher than that. As high as 7th on one board, 11th, 12th, 13th. I don't really see that happening. But I still think he's a solid back end two. But
yeah, I don't. But at the same time, you take it with a grain of salt because 2012 to 2014 he was absolutely dominant. He finished 5th, 1st, and 2nd, and but you had Peyton Manning there. You had a very good, and then as soon as they left, or any quarterback with any sort of potential left, 2015, 13th, still pretty good. And then the last 2 years when they had no help whatsoever, 20th and 23rd. So the guy's still good, but he is getting up there. He's going to be 31 this year. But I love Case Keenum compared to what they had. I can't get behind 7th, but I could understand if people think that he's going to make a comeback and would be in that, that borderline top end wide receiver 2 range. I could buy into that. I haven't yet, but I can understand the thinking. It's not as crazy as people might think when they hear 7th right away.
Yeah, it's not terribly crazy. I think the age does factor into me. How much more can he really jump up? It doesn't mean he can't be a good receiver. He's going to be a good receiver. It's just I don't know if he has that potential anymore. But you'll be if he's your third, you're going to feel really good about it.
Yeah, exactly, and that's where I'm at too. I think that's why a lot of drafts. I think he will get drafted before I'm willing to take him, and I think I'm just okay with that. And that's where you have to be. Is either you're gonna maybe draft him a few spots higher than you should, or you're going to miss out. And I'd rather just let him go to someone else, and I'm sure he'll have a fine season. But I'll let someone else take the risk a little earlier.
All right, number 23, it's going to be Jarvis Landry. He's your 24th, my 25th. He ends up 23rd consensus when we put it all together. Again, safe option. You pretty much know what you're getting with him, even with the new team, I think. And I've heard some good reports already. Here, the Tyrod to Jarvis connection is looking good, which take that with a grain of salt. It's preseason camp reports. You never know what to think, but it is nice to hear good things. It doesn't hurt. So I just don't jump him higher than this either way. I can hear all the good things in the world. It's not going to change my opinion on Jarvis Landry just being, back into high end number 3 receiver for me.
And I have to actually ask you about this because Jarvis Landry was one of those individuals who his stock raised a lot this recent time I put this list together. And a big reason for that was the fact that, once again, we're getting really weird reports about Josh Gordon. And if that hurts my, I don't know, it's just, that becomes a lot more shaky. He has all the talent in the world. We all know that, but we know how he might, kind of take himself out of football. Josh Gordon took a nosedive in my rankings, and it could even go worse. I mean, he, not to spoil it, but he's number 30 currently.
Well, we can talk about him. He's 24th on our board. He's the next player.
Oh, even better. So hold on. So if he's 30 for me, what is it for you then?
He's still 20th for me. I haven't quite downgraded him yet because it's a little worrisome. He's not in camp yet, but I don't have reason to believe yet that it's, anything other than what they're saying it is, and just, making sure everything's good. It is a weird timing if that's the case. It is, I will say that. It is strange that if he's taking time away for this whole thing to focus, on, his recovery and all this stuff. It seems like an odd time. You know what I mean? It seems like this could have been planned better. I don't know how this was planned. So you have that slight worry, but it's hard. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to think about it. I didn't really lower him. The funny thing is, at one point I was low on him in a way. He was jumping up these boards even higher. He's still ADP wise at 17th. He was going higher and higher, and I was a little low. And then I just kind of kept him where he was, and I now all of a sudden have become kind of high on him. So it's
my question to you, and I think this is a very good point because you kind of touched on it where Jarvis Landry, you said, he might not move up the charts no matter what because he is what he is kind of thing. You're on Cleveland. How much can you really get behind this guy? But if he is the number 1, and really he was always the number 1 technically, but Josh Gordon was kind of the de facto big play true number 1 guy that everyone was assuming was going to emerge. If Josh Gordon, say if you just take him out of the equation, if he's not going to play, if he doesn't want to play football this year, what does that do for Jarvis? Does it actually move him up, or are you going to keep him at that 20, whatever you had him, 25th or whatever?
I'd probably keep him similar, maybe touch up 1 or 2, but I just don't think Jarvis has that in him. I think he is what he is. I think he's the kind of player he's going to be. He's going to catch a lot of balls. But it's going to be a lot of short routes. It's going to be all that kind of thing. I just think that's I think that's the kind of player he is. I don't necessarily think it's going to uptick terribly much. Because how many more catches can you really get than what he was getting in Miami?
So, I mean, that is a good point. But he was, I mean, in Miami, which is not a great offense either, he was catching a lot of balls, but he was also ranked, number 14th. He wasn't a slouch by any means. So I just worry that we undersell him because we don't really know. Know what I mean?
We might. It's very possible. And it's just because a player that has 112 catches for 987 yards.
Yeah, okay. I mean, he'll still be a PPR darling, but that's some ridiculous stuff. But
I mean, that was last year. I mean, the year before he did that was 8.8 yards per catch. The year before he was 12.1. He can catch a little more. He had 94 for 1,100. That's possible too. He can do that. So yeah, we could be slightly low on Jarvis because he's a slightly boring player. I don't want to say that, feels a little harsh actually even. But yeah, he's kind of boring in a way sometimes.
He's not a...
Last year he was boring. Okay, he was boring last year. I'll say that. In that offense.
He definitely was. I mean, once again, you had Jay Cutler thrown to you. Nothing against Jay Cutler. He came in at the last second, did fine. But it is kind of his game, right? He's not a big play, red zone, touchdown, kind of, splash headlines type of guy. He is a wonderful possession wide receiver to have. That, by the way, just to throw some rankings, the last 3 years, 15th, 18th, 14th as far as wide receivers go. So he's always incredibly useful to have. Once again, PPR is a whole different story. He's just one of those guys that is just way different when you have those points on, and he shoots up the boards a ton. But yeah, I do. I understand holding back because I have two. Obviously, I didn't rank him in the teens. And, I think that Tyrod and him will be good together. I think that's kind of a match made in heaven. But once again, I love Tyrod in this situation, but I do always worry that Baker will come in and play. And then I just don't know. So I don't know. I feel like you could really spin Jarvis Landry any way you want in order to make his situation fit your view, and I don't want to do that too much. So I'm trying to be as level-headed as I can about it.
I was say PPR, he moves up our boards. Obviously, we're talking standard right now. So next guy on our list, number 25, Corey Davis, my 24th, your 26th. I think we both love Corey Davis. We're obviously ranking him this high, and he hasn't quite really done it in the NFL. But I love the talent. The little bit we did see, he looks the part. So I think that's why we're going to see more from him. I guess there is a slight worry about his quarterback and how good Mariota can be. That's maybe the hesitation, but he looked good in flashes last year, and I think he's going to show that more and more this year. And you could be getting a potential top 10 receiver, honestly, at this level. I really think he has that potential in him for sure. So I love Corey Davis, and but I wish you could get him lower than this. But
I mean, I do too. I mean, you definitely come with a little bit of risk. And you're absolutely, once again, you're right. We don't know what he could really be because we didn't get to see quite enough of him. And I'm not a huge Mariota guy anymore. I think he's had his chance to shine, and he hasn't taken that step. But what saves him on this team is the fact that they do have a really good run game, so that should open it up. And Corey Davis is going to be the number one wide receiver without a doubt. There's no one even close to him. So he will definitely get his chance to show what he can do and get the targets. And I think if Mariota is somewhat accurate, I think that you will get your return on investment, Corey Davis, around 24 and 26, so around 25. You'll definitely get a return on investment, and you might even get more. So I do like this pick, even though he seems like a question mark right now, but I think he's kind of relatively safe here in a weird way.
How about we move on to number 26? It's Michael Crabtree, my 26th player, your 25th. And, I mean, not terribly excited about it. It's the Ravens. But he is, as of today, the Ravens' number one receiver. There's the Dez Bryant rumors. By the time this comes out, we're recording this a couple days early. Dez, maybe he signed with the Ravens. Maybe he didn't sign with anybody. But Crabtree could take a slight hit. But I think he's going to be a solid receiver. He's just, I don't love the offense, so I don't really trust him to do that well. Even if for some crazy thing, if Joe Flacco lost his job to Lamar Jackson, which I don't see happening, but even if that happened, that doesn't help Michael Crabtree in my mind at all. He's going to be better with Flacco. But not terribly excited, but he's not a bad option for your number 3 receiver. I would say that. That's a pretty solid number 3.
Yeah, I think it'd be solid. Being the number 1 in Baltimore, once again, number 1, that's good. Baltimore, that's bad. But I do think that Crabtree is kind of built for Flacco. I think that once again he's going to need that really easy go-to possession wide receiver. So I don't think he'll get a ton of flash, but I think he'll quietly amass his kind of usual amount of yards and touchdowns. And at the end of the year, I do think that he'll be kind of a quietly good player once again. And I feel like he's always overshadowed by someone on his team. So I don't think any of that is going to change, even if Dez Bryant comes along. I think this guy could be a very good wide receiver 3 for you, and who knows, maybe you'll get a little lucky and he'll outrun the wide receiver 3 numbers even.
It's possible, but nothing I'm going to count on.
I just really dislike Baltimore's offense so much, so I have a hard time seeing too much more out of him.
All right, number 27. We both ranked him number 27. It's Golden Tate. We talked a little bit about Golden Tate on the last episode when we talked about Marvin Jones. Golden Tate's going to be he's going to be a very solid player, very good. At PPR, he's even better. It's just, I guess I don't think he's going to catch 90 balls for about 1,000 yards. And that's really good. That's a really solid number. So if he's your number 3 receiver, that's a great number 3 receiver. I just don't think he has more than that in him. So that's why, and the touchdowns they've never really been there for him. And I don't think that's going to change. It's 4, 5, or 6 typically. And that's probably not going to change. So because of that, and the fact that the yardage is only going to be around 1,000, he kind of has that. The ceiling's not terribly high for him, but he also has a very high floor. He's just kind of in that range. And that's where he's going to be. But it's a good player to have as your number 3, but he's always going to be ranked, probably 15th at best, and could all 15 to 30th. That's where he's always going to be.
Yeah, and the reason, and I think Golden, once again, I feel like I always have to just say, oh yeah, I think they're good, but I do think he's a possession guy. But what I don't like about Golden Tate right now, and why we have him a little later than most people do, is I do think that he's a safe guy to have, but at the same time, you look at where he's going right now. Craig, could you look up his ADP real quick? I know that on the experts list, he's going 22. So 23. And if you look at how he's actually done in the past, if you take him at the 23 spot, he is only, out of his, how many years of his career, like 8, he's only beaten the 23 rank twice. Last year, which was 19, and then he had a kind of a really good year, 2014, where he had 13, where Detroit was just throwing everything possible. So the thing I don't like about him is I think you might not get what you're going for. I think if you're picking him, you have to pick him knowing you're taking a safe player, and it has to fit with the type of team that you're trying to get at that point. So I think he's kind of a positional guy, and I don't know. I think you got to be very strategic when you take Golden Tate. I think he's valuable to have, but I also think that I think there's other people that you could, they might not get you the points he does at the end of the year, but you have a more possibility of getting a true number 2, or even maybe a number 1 or something like that. Take a little risk.
All right, number 28. We both ranked him number 28. It's Sammy Watkins, which, if you look at his numbers last year, this is way too high probably. But this is completely, we know that Sammy Watkins is extremely talented wide receiver. And maybe this is the year he gets to show that all off, but there's no guarantee about that at all. Last year, 39 catches for 593 yards with the Rams, and he did have 8 touchdowns, which is solid. But then, we look through back these 4 years for Sammy Watkins, and even his best year was 60 catches for 1,000 yards. So I don't know. At some point, maybe we have to give up. I have to give up too and say he's not, maybe it's not going to happen. I still think it can. He just turned 25. Still a young guy. It's disappointing that it hasn't happened yet, but I don't think you're risking much getting him at this level. And we're about right. He's consensus wise 26. So he's going 29th in drafts. So we're about even with everybody. You're just getting a lot of potential here with Sammy. So that's why I still like the pick, but I do find myself, I don't think I've picked him in any league yet so far. I get scared off sometimes. I'll say that. He's another one of those guys I get scared off from.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. You know what you're getting. You're buying a lottery pick. That's pretty much a lottery ticket. That's what you're doing. You're trying to get that huge that huge win out of taking a very risky player. I don't mind people that do it, but as long as you know that that's exactly what it could be. It could blow up in your face, or you could possibly just get everything and more out of the guy that should have been a top 10 perennial type of wide receiver that we thought coming out of college.
How about we move on to number 29? And this is where actually we get the biggest difference in our ranks out of anybody so far. Probably out of anybody until we get to number 60. And can you think, Jeff, who's a player that's higher on your list that we have not talked about?
I'm trying to think who it could possibly be. Really the biggest difference?
Yeah, biggest difference by far. Because we're at 29. You got a guy that's ranked much higher than this that has not showed up yet. So,
oh man, I have no idea who it could be at the moment.
Chris Hogan. Chris Hogan.
Oh, okay, I got you. I was looking to go the other way. I don't know why. I was like, why? Who do you have ranked way higher? Okay, yeah. So I have Chris Hogan ranked at 22. What do you have him at?
38th.
38th. My gosh, man.
Yeah, I don't know. Just not in love with Chris Hogan.
I don't know. I like that argument. I don't know.
You get Sammy Watkins numbers without Sammy Watkins potential. How about that? Just ignore the fact ignore how many games he played.
Yeah, I was gonna say I get where you're coming from, but
he's never had more than 41 catches in a year.
Yes,
never had more than 680 yards in a season.
You're absolutely right.
Okay, this is all skewed because last year he played 9 games. He was on a much better pace than that. Yes, I get it. I just haven't seen it yet. I don't know. Is he better than Eric Decker?
Well, I mean that's a good question. From last year, yes, but Decker was hurt,
Eric Decker.
So I don't know.
See, I'm more hesitant on Hogan, but the tide has turned on Chris Hogan. He's definitely moved up the boards. When we first started talking wide receiver ranks, he was so far down there. He was well into the 40s, and we were both higher on him. And now he is 28th consensus-wise, 30th ADP. So everyone's kind of turned the corner on him there, especially now with, Jordan Matthews got cut, Julian Edelman suspended. They have to throw the ball to somebody.
Yeah, I mean, he's all of a sudden he's their number one with Brady still healthy. I mean, heaven forbid Gronk goes down or something, which does happen. I mean, the position that he is in is just really as good as it gets. Like, he is the de facto number one. He's going to have multiple games in order to get that rapport going with Brady. And he really did look good in the games he played last year. And before that, he hasn't really missed time. That's what I like too, because it would scare me off if he had an injury-prone kind of situation. But last year was the first time he's ever really gotten hurt. And he was doing really, really well. And then on top of that, we actually saw him do really well in the playoffs. So I do believe in the guy. I think that this is, once again, he's an older guy already, 29. He's probably going to, 30 at the shortly into this year. But he doesn't have a whole lot of work on him. It's not like his body is going to be breaking down as a wide receiver. So I don't know. I believe in him. I totally understand if people are a little more hesitant as Craig is. But I think this guy is just a steal. And unfortunately, he does keep moving up, which really, really blows for me. Because I thought I could take him really late and get a wide receiver too. But yeah, that's why I like him. Everything's trending in his direction.
Number 30, it's going to be Robbie Anderson. You're 29th, my 31st. We're a little bit higher than most. Experts rank him 34th. ADP, he's going 42nd. So we're definitely higher. There is a little slight suspension worry, I guess, from his all off-field stuff. But, I mean, I feel like that we should have heard that by now. I mean, it's not guaranteed. I mean, yes, there's still something might come from that. But even if there is, I don't know. Is it going to be more than a 2-game thing, from what he did? So I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. But if it's only like a 2-game thing, you're going to get a really, really great value, I believe. So this kind of stuff, when people are hesitant about suspension, it ends up making players definitely get a little bit of better value for you. So I don't know, from what we've seen last year, this guy, he's great. He was great, and ranking going ADP 42 as a fourth receiver, I'll take that all day.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that's the big question is I think that why he's not ranked a little higher, you do worry about suspensions. You also worry about, it seems like they have a ton of wide receivers right now, especially a Nuno coming back. You wonder if that'll eat into, his targets maybe. So there's a little bit of question mark there, but last year he was 17th overall, 63 catches, 950 yards with 7 touchdowns. He's going to have the same quarterback throwing to him. I don't know. It's kind of a tough one. I think in my head, if you're going to downgrade a guy, he kind of fits the build, being on a poor team that's probably going to hand the reins over to a different QB halfway through. But he was good. He was just good. So I have a hard time completely shying away from the guy when I can get such a good value out of him.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's part of it to me. It's the value's there. He has a potential to be a really good wide receiver. So I like that down at this level, especially over the guys next on our list. I'll say that. We got a tie at 31 between Devin Funchess, who you ranked 32nd, I ranked 29th, who I had below. The only reason he's ahead, these two are ahead of Robbie. I'm gonna switch that up on my next update here, because it's Pierre Garçon, you're 31st, my 30th. So I'm moving Robbie Anderson as we speak ahead of them to 29th, just like you had him. That's what I'm gonna do. Move Funchess down 1, move Garçon down 1, because I want that potential from Robbie Anderson. Because Funchess and Garçon don't really excite me. I don't know about you.
No, I mean, maybe on here I should actually put Funchess ahead of Garçon. Okay, here's my thing. I mean, it's a tough one too, because once you get down this low, you're really trying to pick out who's going to succeed in their, in the scenario that they're now in. And I'm looking at Pierre Garçon, and I'm like, okay, you're the number one. You have Garoppolo. I have seen you do relatively decent in other places. But if you weren't that wide receiver 1, I would not be excited about you at all, and I'd probably forget about him in general. And Devin Funchess, he actually showed something last year. He should get a little more respect, but now you have Olsen back. McCaffrey is a beast in the backfield, and you have DJ Moore. And all of a sudden, I feel like his targets will get squeezed, and he won't get the opportunity to kind of build on the momentum he had from last year. And that's why Devin Funchess he isn't higher for me, which I totally understand people doing that. But after you look at the team and the way it's set up, it's kind of set up for him just to be a wide receiver too, if you will.
Yeah, I think I don't see the growth from last year. He might just put up the same numbers. That might just be where he's stuck at, which is fine. It's decent, but I think they definitely there's other guys around there. It's not going to just go to him like it did. And so because of that, I'm not terribly excited. And Pierre Garçon, he was on target for about 130 targets last year.
Oh my gosh, was he really?
Yeah, he played 8 games. He had 67 targets.
Oh, okay. That's why I was like, there's no way. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah. He only played 8.
Yeah, but even with those targets, though, he had 40 catches for 500 yards. So he was 80 catches, 1,000 yards, 0 touchdowns. He had in those 8 games. So even if he put those numbers through, you're 80 for 1,000, but no touchdowns. There's only so far you can go with that.
Yeah, and I don't know how much the Garoppolo love can prop all these players up. Yeah, I think at some point you got to come back down to earth, and I think Pierre Garçon is probably the first one where people are like, okay, he's a fine wide receiver, but he's nothing special as far as fantasy goes.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. Yeah, he's probably going to finish around here, but this is probably also his ceiling. He's that. I just can't see much more from him. But let's move on. Number 33, who is both of our number 34 receivers. It's Emmanuel Sanders. Another guy not terribly excited about. He's getting up there. He's 31 now, just like some of these other guys we talked about. But is the increase going to happen because of Case Keenum? That's kind of what I'm thinking if last year he did nothing. He was hurt for part of the year. Didn't really do anything when he did play. It's been now 4 seasons removed from that one big season he had where he had 100 catches and 1,400 yards. Maybe he just can't repeat. He won't repeat that. but you think he can get back to a little better than this. Case Keenum should improve him, but I'm not really taking too much of a chance.
Yeah, I don't think he'll end up on a whole lot of my teams, but the Case Keenum going over there helps him tremendously, because I think if they didn't go out and get a QB, I don't know if Emmanuel Sanders would crack the top 40 for me. Like I don't have a whole lot of faith that he is going to be fantasy relevant. But luckily for him, you are starting to hear good things out of camp about Case Keenum being able to throw to Emmanuel Sanders, and you kind of start remembering the good old days when he was a very shifty wide receiver that could get himself open, and that would be very good to work with Case Keenum in that, because obviously you had someone like, obviously he's not quite as agile, but Diggs, who is kind of the same type of wide receiver when you're talking about route running and getting open.
Let's move on to the next guy, number 34, Robert Woods, my 32nd ranked, your 37th ranked. He looked pretty, slightly higher. I mean, I'm not in love with this guy. So
I mean, it's just, I get it. He's outside, but I don't know why. I just assumed that you were going to bury Robert Woods.
Yeah, no, I still think the offense is going to be very good. So I think the number 2 in this offense should still be pretty solid. And I have Cooks 15 spots higher than him. You have Cooks 24 spots higher than him. Consensus puts him at, puts Robert Woods at 33. So they're similar to where I have him. I think he's going to be a solid player. That's pretty much it. This is a very solid. Because once we start going below this, there's a lot more question marks. I don't think he's too much of a question mark. I think we kind of know where he's at. I don't think he's going to have, especially with Cooks there, he's not going to really jump up, but he's going to be solid for you, but he's no better than a 4th. That's kind of where you stick him. 4th receiver, fill in some weeks. Nothing special. I don't think there's really going to be anything there with Robert Woods other than just being a good, solid receiver.
All right, and this is another one. I'm always interested. I might be jumping around here, but where do you have Cooper Kupp then?
We'll talk about him in a bit.
Okay, so he's about to come up. I gotcha.
He might end the show. I'll say that. He might end the show. All right, so we'll talk. Yeah, we can bring in Woods with that one after we get there. Let's go number 35, who's both of our number 35s. We're a little bit higher than him, than consensus, and that's Devontae Parker. And we're just slightly still waiting for maybe the holdout. Maybe there's talent. This is it, though. This is it.
Yeah. Last year, man. If he doesn't pull something out, I'm going to completely give up on the guy. You got Tannehill back. You're the number 1. They're going to need you to perform. At some point, it's shit or get off the pot time, and that's what the year it is for Devontae Parker.
Yeah, and you know what? There hasn't been good stuff coming out of camp about him right now. There really hasn't. And I kept thinking, okay, maybe this is the year we're going to hear all these good things about him, and it just, nothing there.
It's not a good sign either when Devontae Parker is their number 1, right? And he probably not the lowest number 1, but he is very, very low. Like, he's one of the lowest number 1s on our list, I believe.
Well, this is a quote. This is actually one of the quotes, I think, from the wide receiver. It might be the wide receiver coach, I believe. No. Yeah. Okay. This is what they said about Devontae Parker. This is not necessarily encouraging to hear about a 4th-year guy who should be, knowing what he's doing. It says, he's done like I said, in springtime, we're going to go one day at a time with him. We're going to have some bad days in there. We're just looking to keep stacking as many good ones in a row as possible. So,
like a rookie.
Right? That's what it feels like to me. I guess he might be, maybe he's getting better. Maybe he just says he's trending in the right direction right now. Says, we've got to keep developing him and get him going. But we're really, really excited about him as well. That sounds like a rookie. That does not sound like a 4th-year veteran wide receiver. Or whatever he is. Was he 4th year? I don't even know now. Either way, it does not feel like he should be. I'm not encouraged right now. So maybe we have him too high. I don't know. Maybe we're slightly high on him.
Maybe. I mean, yeah, it's hard. I know it's just, and yeah, it'll be his 4th year. I don't know. He's one of those guys that you want him to do well, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, once again, you're going purely on talent at this point, but when you're down this low, it's not bad to take a risk on a guy that supposedly has a high ceiling and should be the number one wide receiver.
Yep, that's why he is here. I wish we had a little bit more better reports coming about him, but he should be the number one there. So hopefully it comes together. We'll find out. This is it though for him. If he doesn't come to, he needs to if he wants that big contract, which he's never going to get otherwise. So he needs to do something here. Number 36, we have Randall Cobb. Actually, a tie for 36. It's between Randall Cobb, your 39th, my 37th, and Will Fuller, your 40th ranked player, my 36th ranked player. And okay, for Randall Cobb, it's basically he should be the number 2 on an Aaron Rodgers offense. And he's been good in the past. We've seen it. He's just been plagued by injuries. If he can stay healthy, this is probably a steal for Randall Cobb, unless Geronimo Allison takes over, which I don't necessarily see that. But Randall Cobb hasn't been able to stay healthy. He hasn't played, he played 16 games 2 years ago. The last 2 years just been just these nagging injuries and never really gets going. Maybe this is, again, another of these guys we're holding out hope one more time because we've seen it before from him. I don't know how much I trust it. You probably don't either. That's why he's way down here, but it'd be great to see.
Yeah, it would. And, once again, I think you're correct. Whichever one of these guys stays healthy in an Aaron Rodgers offense, and if it's Randall Cobb, that if he can actually stay healthy, he'll be fine. He'll be good to have on your team, and we're probably undervaluing him a bit. But injuries do play a part. And I don't know. The more and more I start thinking about it, the more and more I get excited about Geronimo Allison more and more. I don't know. I think there's a real pathway when Cobb gets those nagging injuries, which almost seems like a guarantee now, that he'll be able to step in that wide receiver too, much like Devontae Adams did to Randall Cobb. And now, Devontae Adams is number 1 when Jordy left and not Cobb. So it's just the way it's going, and that's why he's probably a little lower on my list than, I don't know, depending on where he's going at ADP.
Yeah, and right now, ADP-wise, let's see, he's 36th in the expert consensus. He's going 37th on an ADP, so we're right there.
Yeah, we're right there.
It's kind of where he's going. But there is some potential there. If he stays healthy, he's going to have a better year than that. I believe that. I just don't know if he does.
Yeah, and speaking of health, Will Fuller, obviously tied with Randall Cobb for our rankings. There's no doubt why some people will have a lot of love for this guy. He's a home run threat. He could end up with double-digit touchdowns even if he only had 20 catches. So, exactly. There's a lot to love there, especially if Watson stays healthy. He's got the arm, and he definitely slings it. So I could see Will Fuller being a very big value pick, especially this late. It's just hard right now with a guy that weighs like 100 pounds soaking wet that keeps getting hurt. But I do like his potential.
Yeah, this is all potential here. I mean, his touchdown rate is kind of unsustainable, but it was really just starting to step up, so we don't know how it would have happened with, if Watson would have not got hurt there either, too, and it just didn't work out. It was a crazy touchdown rate, though. But still, 28 catches in 10 games. That's all it was. But,
yeah, I mean, that's crazy.
That is the crazy part, but there's so much potential here. So that's why we're going to just stick him in this spot, draft him as your 4th receiver, see what happens. It could be a huge, huge boost for you. I picked him up. I think I got him in the Scott Fish Bowl, actually. So I'm hoping to see that. There's definitely a chance. He's shown all these flashes in the 2 years. It's just, can he stay healthy? Stay on the field. And that's the next step to finding out. And, how good really is Deshaun Watson. We'll find out that too. I'm not 100% sure yet. It's just going to be fun to watch though.
Yeah. That whole team, that offense is going to be just a run and gun, and mostly gun.
So our next guy, ranked 38th, is another pretty big difference in rankings between us. It's Jordy Nelson. So he's your 46th ranked. He's my 33rd. And I just think I don't know why I'm turning around on this. Probably because, again, maybe I'm getting swayed by John Gruden or something and his love for Nelson so far. I just think there could be something there. There could be, as a number 2. This is all hoping that the Raiders offense becomes what we thought the Raiders offense could be last year with, Carr throwing to Cooper and now Jordy and even Martavis Bryant out there. I think Jordy could be pretty solid. Maybe But, or he could, this is why he's still way down here, even though 33rd is higher than what you have him. It's still built into the fact that was last year just because there was no Aaron Rodgers, or was last year because he was 32 years old? That's what we don't know yet. And you won't know that till the games start. That's, you are though in line. You have him 46th. He is ranked 46th currently and expert consensus. So he's going 40th. So I am a little high on Jordy.
Yeah. I think I'm a little bit low, to be honest. As I'm looking at the guys around him, I'd probably move him up a few spots. I think, once again, it's tough because I don't think there's going to be any middle ground with Jordy. I think you're either going to have him early and get him, and he's going to pay dividends, or that same situation, and he is going to be, what we fear the most is he can't play with any other quarterback this late in his career, and he's not going to be worth having on your team at all. So I don't think there's going to be any middle ground where you're like, oh, I'm glad I have him on my roster. It's going to be like, wow, he really helped me win a bunch of games, or, man, that was a terrible pick. Like, I think those are the two camps.
Pretty much. I think that's, that could actually be the case. So, all right, next guy. Nelson Aguilar, another pretty big difference, it's what a lot of these are right now. We're getting there. We have a lot of differences here. He's 39th for us. He's 33rd for you, 47th for me. Woo. I'm a little lower on, he was okay last year. He got a lot of touchdowns. That's more of it. 62 for 768, solid. He's not amazing. So, I don't know. That's kind of I need to see a little more from Nelson Aguilar. I guess that's where I'm at. I need to see more. There's some of the other guys I just like a little better. I mean, right? God, maybe I shouldn't say the guys I have ahead of him.
I think it's going to be painful to hear the guys that you'd. I know Aguilar is not like a homegrown name by any means, and he finally put a season together last year after disappointing for a few in a row. But he finished 22nd overall, and I think, and the reason I have him higher than you do, I'm guessing. But I believe almost any wide receiver that you plug into that offense could put up those numbers. I think that's how good that Philadelphia's offense is, especially throwing the ball because they spread around so much. So I could easily see him catching another 7 touchdowns. And, he finally showed a little something. So I feel like his targets could actually go up just slightly as well. And I think that he would be a very good player to get at around that level.
Yep, and I get that. I think maybe I'm slightly low on him. That's maybe I should jump up a little bit. I'm not going to move him up terribly far yet, but I will admit maybe slightly low. But
I think we should meet each other in the middle with the Nelson Aguilar, the Jordy Nelson, and then Aguilar.
Probably that's what
Jordy
I'm thinking.
Nelson Aguilar. That's perfect.
There we go. All right, so the final spot here, number 40. We actually have a tie, so we have 2 guys here. Talk about. One is Cooper Kupp, who is your 36th, my 45th. And then the next one's Marquise Goodwin, your 41st, my 40th. So with Cooper Kupp, I don't love Cooper Kupp as much as everyone else seems to love Cooper Kupp. I don't know. I think he's an okay receiver. I just don't see anything special there. I just don't. Yeah, I think he's fine.
Yeah, I do too. I think he's fine. And that's the weird part is I do like him better than I like Robert Woods. Yeah, so that's where the issue kind of comes. And how much of Cooper Kupp's value will be taken away by having a far superior wide receiver that can run those routes and be a possession guy if need be and can be stretch the field. He can do a lot of different things. When you bring that number 1 in, how is that going to affect Cooper Kupp? I really don't know. But I mean, even last year, Cooper Kupp exceeded his expectations. He finished 27th. And he still kind of beat the crap out of Robert Woods and Sammy Watkins. So is that just because, you had a young quarterback in Goss and he was, throwing to the guy in the middle of the field that's an easier read? I don't know. So maybe that some of those targets do get taken away from him. But I do see value there, but I don't get excited because I don't think his ceiling is particularly high.
Yep, and that's where I'm at maybe because I just don't see the high ceiling for him. I think he's fine. He's gonna be a fine receiver, but that's about it. And I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit the hype was a little much on him. I just hear his name too much. I guess he's not ranked terribly outrageous. I'm slightly lower, I guess, than most. And then we got the final guy who's tied with him, Marquise Goodwin, who I'm much more excited about Goodwin, I feel like, than Cooper Kupp. Goodwin, he has that big play potential shown with his 17.2 yards per catch last season. 56 catches, 962. That's pretty impressive.
That is.
And surprisingly, only 2 touchdowns out of that. I feel like he would have had more. I feel like there would have been more from that.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to have that yards per catch and only 2 touchdowns.
Right? I think if Jimmy Garoppolo's for real, this rank is low. That is where the weird thing with Jimmy Garoppolo comes in, because people are ranking him high, but then his position players aren't. If Jimmy Garoppolo's for real, Marquise Goodwin's going to be one of the guys that is the benefit of that, and he's going to be one of the reasons why Jimmy Garoppolo is so high. So this could be a really good value here. And I do see some potential. He's going to be a really big play guy. I mean, I kind of like this pick as like my fifth receiver. I kind of like having Goodwin there.
Yeah, and he's definitely one that every time I look at him, I move him up more and more. And it's hard to say with San Francisco and how it's going to shake out, but I think Marquise Goodwin is going to be kind of it's not really a sleeper, but he's going to be on my kind of radar as far as if I can grab him. I think he has huge potential because he's not going to ever be like the true wide receiver one, but I think that's what he's going to end up with that team. I think he's going to have more catches than Pierre Garçon. I think that he's going to be more dynamic. So I really do see if San Francisco goes, to your point, Craig, I think Goodwin is going to be maybe behind McKinnon, but he's going to be the biggest benefactor of that. And I really believe that. I think Pierre Garçon is, and I ranked it that way too. So I know I have Pierre Garçon 31 and Goodwin 10 spots below him, but Goodwin and him keep moving closer together, and I see the writing on the wall, but I'm too afraid to pull the trigger quite yet. That's kind of where I'm at.
Yep, I agree with that, but that's why if he's my 5th, which he kind of could be at this rank, that's a wonderful number 5 with some potential there, who I would rather have than a lot of other guys, which we'll get into the rest of the guys on our next episode. We're going to go beyond now 41, keep going to 60 at least, and probably talk about a few other guys further down the list that we think maybe could make a step up. And keep going. Wide receiver, there's a lot of interesting players. You can go forever with a guy who you think could do something. There's so many of them, so we can talk about this all day. And we will be back with that episode next time.